Once upon a review show dreary, as I scripted, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of ill-begotten Poe. While I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my window. 'Tis some visitor rapping on my window. Only this and nothing more.
Go away, Usher! You're not even a rapper!
What have I told you about interrupting my flow? So I flung open the shutter when, to my surprise, there was no rapper seen to go. And with many a flit and flutter, in flew a stately raven from the street below. With the air of a fellow critic he perched upon my stove, perched and sat, and with the eyes of a demon that is dreaming of its own show, quoth the raven, "Poe's a bore!" So I shot the fucker, 'cause Poe is awesome. If you want more bad Poe, a tree, feel free to like, subscribe, hit the bell, and or support the channel on Patreon. Welcome to episode 1 of my look at Mike Flanagan's.
Mike Flanagan.
It's Flanagan? Either is fine.
Sorry, Flanagan's Fall of the House of Usher. Officially the third best of his 5 horror miniseries that he's done on Netflix. That might not sound impressive, but there's not that much drop-off between them. Fall of the House of Usher isn't just based on the Edgar Allan Poe story of the same name. It'd be much shorter if it was, and instead takes the same approach as Flanagan's Bly Manor, and mixes, merges, and remixes various works together. And then it sprinkles pieces from even more of them in a seasoning. If you want to know the proper position to be in while watching this, I suggest you study the Leonardo DiCaprio gif on screen right now, and recreate it when warranted. What I'm going to do with each episode is give you some information about the story that heavily inspired that episode, or rather the main one, because it's never just one, plus anything else that comes up during the episode, but mostly taking the piss, because this is a patron request, and the patron specifically requested piss-taking. And as a urologist who once wronged me discovered, I am very good at taking piss, and then returning it unbidden via super soaker. Anyway, every episode will end with me pointing out a historical inaccuracy in the John Cusack movie The Raven, because I watched it while working on the introduction video, and I yelled a bunch. So episode 1, Midnight Dreary, was inspired by a bunch of Poe stories, most notably The Fall of the House of Usher, but I'm saving that for episode 8. So this time we're going into The Raven, probably Poe's most famous Simpsons piece. A tale of a man stewing in regret, sitting alone and being haunted by loss in the form of a raven, which can only say one thing.
Eat my shorts. Bart, stop it! He says nevermore, and that's all he'll ever say. Okay.
The Raven was a massive hit when it was published in 1845. People went kinda nuts for it. Poe even took to wearing a longer dark coat and cape, because children would yell at him in the street to quote the Raven. So much to their delight, he'd throw back his cape and yell, "Nevermore!" The regretful man in the poem is a scholar of some sort, possibly into the occult, having spent his night reading much forgotten lore. And the Raven is probably a messenger from the underworld, or the night's Plutonian shore. My interpretation is that the scholar wants to raise his lost love Lenore from death, and the Raven's been sent to let him know that it's hopeless. He will see her nevermore. Poe's choice for Raven was inspired by the talking raven in Charles Dickens's Barnaby Rudge. That raven was inspired by Grip, Dickens's own pet raven, seen here. But Poe also wanted a bird that could speak, which ravens can.
Say nevermore. Waka 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 waka.
And they fit the tone much better than a parrot. Nevermore! Nevermore! Now, before we hit the episode proper, please like, subscribe, and hit any bells in grabbing distance. And if you want to and are able, then please feel free to check out the Patreon. There's all kinds of rewards, including requests, like this entire series. This look at the Fall of the House of Usher. It was a request. Oh no, just think of the possibilities. You can make me watch other Mike Flanagan things.
My wallet's too small for my 50s, and my diamond shoes are too tight.
Anyway, on to the episode. As ever, the Netflix intro beckons us into its digital hell, made of cancelled shows, hating cinemas, no physical releases, and way too fucking much Stranger Things. 5, 4, 3, 2, all all in all, Fortunato's gonna be another prick in the wall. But that's later on. We open with a funeral, several at once. We're gonna be at a few of these for the course of the show. At a certain point in the story, the Ushers really should have just moved into the church to make things simpler for everyone. The priest is played by Poe royalty Mark Redfield, who wrote, directed, and starred in independent films, did all sorts of audio recordings of classic horror, and played Poe a number of times. He was so well known and regarded in the Poe fandom that he was tasked by the Poe House Museum with organising the celebration of Poe's 200th birthday. Redfield was perfect casting in this. No notes. He died late last year. He also starred in Despiser, a 2003 film where he fights the forces of hell, and that's an excuse to show you this clip. Fucking amazing. And this isn't Flanagan just giving a role to a big Poe guy. Apparently Redfield and Flanagan knew each other for years, long before Flanagan's career took off. The eulogy is a collection of Poe quotes.
And the mist upon the hill, shadowy, shadowy. Yet unbroken is a symbol and a token. How it hangs upon the trees, a mystery of mysteries. The boundaries which divide life from death are, at best, shadowy and vague.
A good rule of thumb for this is that if something sounds a little odd, fancy, or out of place, then it's probably a reference to something. Everything except for Ruthko's performance. That's just pure Wexford magic, baby! Watching over the events is Verna, an anagram of Raven, and in case you missed that, she's in a bird mask and is wearing black. Our lead is evil billionaire Roderick Usher, played by Bruce Greenwood. They're desperately trying to convince us he's a very old man because he was mid-season replacement for Frank Langella, who's about 20 years older than him. Of course, that doesn't explain why Mary McDonnell, 19 years younger than Langella, was cast as Roderick's twin sister Madeline. But the Ushers run a medical company, so maybe they invented embryo freezing before they were born. I mean, the show is about magic after all. I know Flanagan likes to reuse actors, but if you're going to replace Langella, then Bruce Greenwood is a bit of a baffling choice, honestly. They don't resemble each other, there's a massive age difference, and Greenwood's never even played Skeletor. Mark Hamill's in this. We almost had a 2 Skeletor production. This is just a really long-winded way to say that they really should have recast with Alan Oppenheimer.
What?
When Greenwood arrived on set, he apparently said, "Let's Carla Gugino this thing!" as a reference to Gugino stepping in at the last minute in Gerald's game, and everyone knocking at the park. Anyway, yes, all of Roderick's children have died bizarre, unlikely deaths in the past few weeks, but that is what happens when you name all your children after Edgar Allan Poe references. Roderick decides to tell a story, the tale of the fall of the House of Usher, to his nemesis, word chosen specifically to annoy my father, though it does also kind of fit his role in the story. See Auguste Dupin. Dupin, played by Carl Lumley, is slightly less French than his literary counterpart. The OG, fictional hero super detective. Dupin's a lawyer who made it his job to bring the Ushers down, so he's kind of suspicious when he receives a phone call inviting him to meet Roderick at a crumbling ruin. But to be fair, he seems to be one of the few characters in this who would actually read Poe, so him being genre savvy kind of fits.
Well, come on if you're coming.
Man, the Ushers make really quiet portable generators. This is the Usher childhood home, the literal House of Usher. As his fortunes grew, Roderick bought the house, then the rest of the neighborhood, with the intention of just letting it rot. Also,
Symbolism!
Yes, that. A tale this long, deranged and opulent, though, requires lubrication. So Roderick pours them both some piss from a bottle shaped like an unusually gaudy French butt plug. Poe would approve. He was a massive francophile.
A single pour, it probably cost twice your annual salary.
Poe would definitely approve. Until he became a teetotaler later on.
Have a glass.
You're eventually going to be celebrating a rare win.
I called you tonight to give you the only thing you've ever wanted. My confession.
Well, in that case, let me get my victory recorder out so I can masturbate to this later on.
But where to start? At the beginning, I suppose.
You see, this is why they couldn't have any Eureka prose poem references. Because the first 7 episodes would be a weird-ass dramatization of how the universe happened. Like Cosmos, if everything was sad and drunk. Eureka was Poe's epic poem about how the universe works. And he got a surprising amount of stuff right. Literal galaxy brain stuff. I did a whole short about it. Madeline and Roderick were raised by single mother Eliza Usher, named after Poe's real-life mother, Eliza Poe. Unlike Poe's mother, she'll die young. She works for Longfellow, a wealthy businessman, named after Poe's hated rival, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, a very popular poet of his day. Weirdly enough, the rivalry was pretty much one way. Basically this.
You took everything from me.
I don't even know who you are.
Poe hated Longfellow loudly and often, and all Longfellow had to say in the matter was this. My writing seemed to give him much trouble, but Mr. Poe is dead and gone, and I am still writing, and that is the end of the matter. Which is fair enough. Poe could be a bit of a jackass. Anyway, the fictional Longfellow is the Usher's father, and he's a real charmer.
Children are never too tender to be whipped. Like tough beefsteaks, the more you beat them, the more tender they become.
Remember when I said that anything weirdly fancy is probably a reference? That's a quote, not from one of Longfellow's works, or Poe's, but from Poe himself. Ironically, while Poe never had children, he was on the receiving end of treatment like that from the man who raised him, rich merchant John Allen, who he had a very fractious relationship with. Longfellow's played by a very long fellow indeed. Robert Longstreet, who's in a lot of Flanagan productions. He's like a usually bearded good luck charm. Him and Annabeth Gish's casting as Eliza is also a bit of an in-joke, because they played the Dudleys in The Haunting of Hill House, who didn't just love each other, but their children as well. Longfellow doesn't raise the Ushers, you see. He's too busy being a high-flying business dickhead, and abusive philandering monster to add bigamy and fatherhood to his plate. So he fires Eliza and leaves her to succumb to that horrific illness that rarely kills you quickly, being a dumbass.
Jesus showed us how to heal the sick, and it wasn't through medicine.
This is another reference to Poe's mum, not the Christian Science, the long and pleasant death surrounded by her kids. Though the Poe children were much younger when she died. I'm actually kind of sad that Eliza will die so quickly. She's one of the few characters who doesn't get a really long monologue, and I wanted to make an Annabeth Gish-Scallop joke. Anyway, the kids are desperate and turn to the only man who can maybe help. Longfellow.
I'm sorry, you're here at my home, so I'll talk your mother into seeing a doctor.
You can tell he's an asshole because he has the same taste in 30s music as a true knot in Dr. Sleep.
Take your grift and get off my property.
Makes sense, though. That guy's Robert Longstreet. And so she dies, kicking off, kinda, the plot of The Premature Burial, Poe's story about fears of a premature burial. Being buried alive was a real fear in the 1800s, and horribly common because medicine left a lot to be desired. Like medicine. It got so strong that some people paid for specialist graves with bells or mirrors, so you could get attention if you woke up in your grave. Though I'm unaware of anyone actually having their life saved by such contraptions. She wouldn't want to be autopsied or embalmed, and the kids are dumbasses, so instead they bury her in the garden and thank their lucky stars that every one of their neighbours is apparently blind. The Ushers slept in the same bed as teens. It's a large house, so I assume this is a reference to the original Poe short story, The Fall of the House of Usher, where Roderick and Madeline were very close, as in it's heavily inferred that they felt that incest was wincest. They toned this right down for the show. 100 people melting on screen is fine, but God forbid we have a family with more inbreeding than the Appalachian Habsburgs. The only really noticeable references to the incest that aren't also massive spoilers are Madeline's occasional jealousy in their choice of costumes for a party.
Guessing you're Jay Gatsby, Daisy Buchanan.
A couple. Anyway, something's gone horribly wrong. Oh no, they didn't bury her deep enough. I kind of want to know how she did that damage from the inside, or how she didn't wake anyone up doing it. So, having discovered that she's both superhumanly strong and stealthy, Eliza's decided to forgo revenge on her kids, and instead go visit Longfellow for being such an abusive, impregnating prick. And the moral of the story is not to refuse medical care, or do because it briefly gives you superpowers.
She was remarkable.
She was also right behind Dupin the whole time, because Flanagan loves his hidden ghosts that you only notice if he really wants you to. Let me know if you want a headcanon fodder on Flanagan's hidden ghosts. So on to Roderick's dead kids. He has 6 kids from 5 mothers. Unlike his dad, he has a policy of never abandoning the fruits of his many affairs. On the one hand, that's good. On the other hand, they'd probably be less monstrous if they kept away from him, and not so likely to leap out for jump scares. I'm actually kind of serious about that. I don't for a moment believe that these are all of Roderick's kids. The guy slept around a lot. At least one kid never found out who his dad was, never got tainted by his money, and so never turns up as a vengeful ghost. But I'm getting ahead of myself. We have more flashbacks. 2 weeks ago, Dupin was bringing charges against the Ushers for decades of criminality, connected to multiple industries such as good taste and subtlety, but primarily medicine. They created the opioid epidemic with their supposed wonder drug Ligadone, a reference to Lygia, Poe's story about the power of addiction and obsession, but not for a substance, for love. They do crime after crime after crime and get away with it because their enforcer and expert lawyer, Arthur Pym, played by Mark Hamill. Pym's named after the main character in the narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket, Poe's only completed novel, which I'll go into later on.
In 40 years, not one indictment, not one charge, not one consequence has stuck!
Of course, they also have literal magic on their side, so maybe Pym's not actually an expert in anything.
Objection!
Overruled. It's kind of funny that Dupin, the original super detective, spent 40 years failing to catch the Ushers. I'd be pissed off too.
Not one consequence has stuck!
But this time he's an ace up his sleeve. A traitor.
You're going to hear from one of them. Their testimony and evidence will be unimpeachable.
Objection!
Still overruled.
If such a witness exists, they have not been made known to the defense.
I bet it's Cousin Raymond. His music career's not what it was, and he could use the publicity. Anyway, I don't know why they all look so surprised. It's called Fortunato Pharmaceuticals. We all knew that someone was going to end up betrayed, and probably shackled and bricked up in a wall. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself. So, as Arthur Pym desperately tries to transform into a red-hot ball of rage, the plot continues.
Family dinner. Spouses too.
Except that fucking pop star, he knows what he did. The Ushers live all over the place, but close enough that they can all race to the headquarters the second Roderick dies. The first one there will claim the throne and have the rest killed, I assume, Ottoman style. At his place, Frederick, Roderick's eldest, is trying to relax. You can instantly tell he's a dickhead because he changed shirts to bowl in his living room. Frederick's named after Frederick, the protagonist of Metzengerstein, Poe's first published short story. It's the tale of a dickhead heir of a vast fortune who spends his time being horrible to people. As a deeply flawed but important literary figure from the USA once said, "Nuff said." Frederick's played by Henry Thomas, who famously gave the second best performance in this film. Always nice to see a child actor grow up successful, well-balanced, and at all. Christ, the history of child acting is dark. Anyway, Frederick, or Froderick as he's hilariously nicknamed, is kind of bad at the whole business dickhead thing. The business part, not the dickhead part. And he's trying to get his mind around whether the traitor is technically a mole or an informant.
Okay, so a mole is like Leonardo DiCaprio in The Departed, and an informant is like Jack Nicholson in The Departed.
What I'm getting from this scene is that The Departed is like Harry Potter for middle-aged, rich asshole bowlers.
It's just their other movies, Dad.
Not as good as The Departed.
Frederick's daughter is Lenore, the token good usher.
If someone really broke the law, shouldn't they be punished?
That is a brave and thoughtful thing to say, especially if you want to get written out of the will.
Becoming a real lost Lenore. Anyway, over in her own place is Usher Kid number 2, Tamerlane. All the Usher kids are an ocean of references to Poe's work, but Tamerlane is a roiling sea full of rogue waves. She's named after the poem Tamerlane, not the guy Tamerlane who starred in the poem Tamerlane. It's all about destruction wrought by ambition, because this isn't subtle, but it's the sort of unsubtle you need to read up on to fully notice. Tamerlane is desperate and insecure, and she's working on a goopish lifestyle brand, thing called Goldbug, and her husband is a fitness influencer called William Wilson. But I'll go into all that in a later video. Unlike the rest of them, they're discussing the traitor.
My money is on one of the bastards.
Do you have the slightest idea how little that narrows it down?
Samantha Sloyan, who plays Tamerlane, might be my favourite of Flanagan's acting menagerie. She has a Louise Fletcher-like ability to play entertainingly horrible people. She needs an American Horror Story season to be the main character in, and she needs it 5 years ago. But, you know, like, good. Usher kid number 3 is Victorine, the first of the bastards. After Roderick's marriage to Frederick and Tamerlane's mother, ended, he travelled the world searching for a woman who'd sleep with a billionaire whose company makes potent legal highs, and he somehow only ended up with 4 extra kids. Victorine's name comes from the premature burial, as mentioned earlier. She was a minor character who was buried alive, but was rescued by her lover. Nothing so jolly happens to her in the show, though.
What?
She's attempting to get an artificial heart working and killing a lot of chimpanzees in the process. And it occurs to me that this show might technically be a rare example of a Murders in the Rue Morgue adaptation where humans kill more apes than the other way around. Victorine is driven, dedicated, and won't let anything stop her from succeeding. She's probably the most typical protagonist in the series. Most of the others have some sort of pre-built monstrousness already there. Hers comes from circumstance, desperation. If things had gone slightly differently, things would have gone very differently. Next is Napoleon, named for Napoleon, the protagonist of The Spectacles. It's a comedy story where a guy refuses to wear glasses for reasons of vanity, and accidental gerontophilic incesty shenanigans ensue. None of that happens in the show itself, though. More's the pity. They just borrowed the name. But the theme of the story is vanity, and the Ushers have plenty of that. Napoleon is probably the most well-balanced of Roderick's kids. Merely dickish instead of some degree of supervillain or full-on monster. Anyway, much like the protagonist of The Spectacles, Napoleon's really into losing at Mortal Kombat and having affairs.
Oh, you're in the elevator. Okay, see you in a sec.
You gotta go. Hey. Hey, bro.
Oh look, a black cat. Bet that'll be important later.
Hey, sweetie. Are you being good for other daddy?
The bisexuality isn't very Poe, though. He was probably the straightest writer in the 19th century. Regretfully, if you remember the age of his wife when they married. The guy would probably have had a less tragic life if he was arrested a few times for buggery. The best of Roderick's kids, though, is Camille L'Espanaye. Camille is a supervillain waiting to happen, a PR spider, verbally and sexually abusing those in her power. All the others have moments when they pretend to not be cunts, though for Napoleon it's more like a few minutes. But Camille just embraces it and runs with what she is. A drag act I'm sad Divine is too dead to perform.
Kill everyone now. Condone first-degree murder. Advocate cannibalism. Eat shit. Filth are my politics. Filth is my life.
Why is that so fucking out? Fucking migraine.
She's mostly an original character designed as a hate sink for maximum Kate Siegel hotness, but is named after Camille and Mrs. L'Espanaye for Murders in the Rue Morgue, who got killed by a big ape. And, well, we'll get to that much later on. Anyway, like the others, she's desperately trying to work out who the traitor is.
We're gonna find out who's talking to the feds, and then I'm gonna freeze their fucking head, and I'm gonna give it to my father on a platinum plate. See if Cartier will make a platinum plate.
Usher's youngest is Prospero, a tempestuous youth. He's basically all id, a rich dumb kid who's named after Prince Prospero from the Mask of the Red Death, who, like Prospero will, got a lot of other rich dumb people killed horribly. Something I noticed, the 2 legitimate kids are married and straight, but the 4 illegitimate ones are queer and unmarried. Victorine is a monogamous lesbian, but the others are bisexuals, who sexually abuse, have affairs, or just sleep around. I wonder what the writers meant by this, cause it kinda looks bad, but knowing what I know about Flanagan, both his wife and sibling are bi, I really don't think it's any sort of queer phobia. Apart from everything else, Tamerlane and Frederick are terrible too, just straight and married in their terribleness. So I'm sure there's a meaning I'm missing. If you watch this, Mike Flanagan, somehow I apologize for the quality of my voiceover. But if you tell me what I'm missing, I'll put in a later video. Looking at the variety of Roderick's kids, that guy either has extremely malleable genes or none at all. Actually, the second one kind of works with the plot. The only reason the last four of them exist at all is magic. But anyway, all the Ushers having been introduced by me, Prospero turns up later in the episode. It's time for dinner preparations. Ruth Codd plays Juno, Roderick's much, much, much younger second wife.
They hate me.
They don't.
Yes, they do.
Well, except Freddie. But I'm pretty sure he's just kissing your arse.
And I don't know if it's just Codd's acting or the fact that Juno is literally on drugs the whole time, but she has the air of a Derry Girls character who wandered into the wrong set and is confused by all the murder, which is impressive considering Derry Girls was set during a civilish war.
Prospero's here.
What?
Anyway, the Ushers have a policy that when the kids reach the age of majority, or when they become an irredeemable shitbag, whichever comes first, they're allowed to come up with a business proposal that the family will support if it's good enough. For example, Tamara Lane's is being incompetent but married to a popular guy, Napoleon's is a video game company, Frederick's is in being a twerp, Victorine's is in medical devices, Camille's is in being a supervillain media spider, and Prospero's is an exclusive nightclub franchise.
Prospero Rome, Prospero New York, Prospero Dubai.
If he opens enough of them, he'll name one of them after his horse. He wants to make it so exclusive that they turn away literal royalty and charge thousands for a glass of whiskey.
We're gonna turn movie stars and monarchs away with attitude. We're gonna make Studio 54 look like fucking Romper Room.
He also plans to have debauched orgies, which are then recorded for compromat. Bit of an own goal in keeping royalty out then, but that's episode 2. Anyway, because this is a bad idea, and or because this is straying dangerously close to what eventually got Jeffrey Epstein killed, Madeline and Roderick say no.
Being an usher is about changing the fucking world. It's not a blowjob whiskey bar.
You can tell Prospero's bad at this. He could have called it Prospero's boobs. I mean, this is the only sex and alcohol related thing that Roderick's turned down in generations. He is pretty down though, deservedly. He's been diagnosed with a fatal case of dying in episode 8. Anyway, one very silly, weird little fact about this is that it's the second Mike Flanagan project in 4 years, involving an evil ghost bartender appearing and spontaneously generating whiskey that the main character doesn't drink.
For the road.
Oh, I recognize that. It's a theme from Tarzan Singh's The Fall of the House of Usher. This is the family dinner scene, or rather, the family sits around a big table, eating novelty cake scene.
Pharmaceutical law.
Oh, no. Wait, it's cake. I swear, if your TV show had been about your cakes, it would have run 20 seasons.
If only you had enough money to buy a network. This story is just a Jenga pile of tragedy. I didn't talk about older Madeline in the last scene because this is where she shines. Stone-faced, though not literally yet. Stone-hearted, cold, almost robotic, austere, all business. It's like wooden acting, but totally deliberate. Like a wolf in a family of deeply horrible sheep.
When I find out who's been talking to the government, there won't be enough of you left to sue. Left to sue the bloody puddle of gore in the designer shoes.
Older Madeline's played by Mary McDonnell, her first Flanagan outing. You might remember her from Battlestar Galactica, where she played the president, or from that other political thriller Independence Day, where she played the First Lady. She and Roderick had Pym, the shark lawyer, who in all likelihood has eaten actual sharks, draw up new contracts.
Wait, is this also cake?
If it was, it'd technically still be legally enforceable. The contract states that if they're found to be the traitor, you'll be removed from the will and cast into the family, with nothing but a heroic reputation, with everyone who's not in this room. Basically, the Vivian Wilson treatment.
Yeah, I prefer not to sign anything without my guy looking at it first.
Your guy is now the man who wrote it.
Or not.
Fortunato is the reason you exist.
Some more than others. Some literally so.
Expect each of you to defend it with your life.
Like they'll defend it with your deaths.
I'm putting a bounty on you. You, the informant, you know who you are. It's 50 million, sleep tight.
You hear that, Prospero? 50 million buys a few clubs. Alas, he's too dumb to do that, and prefers the much more business-savvy route of incompetence and accidental mass murder. You know, I almost forgot this was a flashback.
I know who's responsible.
For which death?
I am responsible. Perhaps there's a woman.
And perhaps a bird. This is Verna, the Raven, a vaguely defined spirit of dark desires, infinitely malleable, able to perform any role required of her to get what she wants. Oh no, sorry, that's just a description of Carla Gugino's career and Mike Flanagan's stuff. 15 years after their little run-in with their mum and dad, the Ushers spent the new year in 1980 in a bar. There's gonna be a lot of flashbacks to them. They're played by MTV Movie Award Best Scared as Shit Performance nominee Zach Gilford, and Willa Fitzgerald, who starred in Scream the TV show for some reason. Yes, there was a Scream TV show. She's as shocked as anyone when it's brought up. Both of them have the frightened air of people who are not there to celebrate, but because of something personal. It's like they've erected a wall. Not between them, but between them and a third party, who they just killed.
Nothing for you then. No, we're drinking tonight, both of us. Whiskey. Neat.
Either that, or they finally did what Poe wanted and fucked off screen. Nah, it's the murder. But again, we'll get to that. If you want to look ahead, just watch the show or read some Poe. You'll find the right story eventually. And if not that story, try some others. A lot of them will turn up. Like in this bar alone, we have a raven, a black cat, a horse, possibly a reference to Metzingerstein, and another raven and a skull, a common symbol for Poe. Anyway, all this is revealed in episode 8, but I need to tell you it now for clarity. Verna's here to offer them a deal. Decades of unimaginable and unimaginative success and immunity from the law in exchange for their lives. And presumably their souls, which are probably forfeit anyway because they're shitheads. It's not just that though, they want to change the world and she wants to know how they change it. I'm pretty sure Roderick at this point did want to make the world a better place, but Madeline was always evil.
I'm just excited that we get to kick Carter out of the White House this year.
Yeah, I'm kinda sure they were responsible for Hagan.
A deal's a deal.
We buried my boy today, and almost nobody came.
He's talking about Frederick. Nice to know he died like he fucked. The French would approve.
And almost nobody came.
Well, 6 horrific deaths and a hideous acid melt in a 2-week period does rather convince people that you're starring in your own Final Destination movie. It does make them want to avoid the finale. And like a demon that is dreaming, Verna watches over the proceedings. Because it wasn't just their lives that Roderick and Madeline bargained away. All life that sprang from them is forfeit. My favourite part of this scene is the priest reading.
By slow degrees, our sickness and dizziness and horror become merged in a cloud of unnameable feeling.
Is from The Imp of the Perverse, essentially Poe's mission statement for psychology and horror. The idea that people have an innate drive to do something that will ruin them. That if you stand on a cliff edge, part of you want to step forward. Basically the granddaddy of the concept of intrusive thoughts. It fits so well here because Roderick and Madeline shouldn't take the deal. They know they shouldn't, and yet they did. And don't the ghosts look so happy they did? Anyway, we're winding down now, just enough time for a jump scare. Comedians have had worse reactions, but not many. So, who was the jester? Well, you're probably tired of hearing it by now, but we'll get to that in a few episodes' time.
It's time.
Nevermore.
It's time.
No, nevermore.
It's time.
Are you deaf as well as stupid? Nevermore. Well, that was fun. Excellent work all around. Well written, expertly directed, with so many disparate connections to Poe's work. It's not so much an adaptation as the adaptation. It's like they've infused the show with Poe, rather than just interpret his work. Anyway, as promised, we end with a historical inaccuracy in The Raven, the 2012 film that starred John Cusack. Starting off small, his facial hair. There is no evidence that Poe had a goatee. Ever. In fact, the classic Poe look with the mustache wasn't the look he had for most of his life. He only grew the mustache a few years from the end. For most of his career he went clean-shaven with massive sideburns. But most of his photos were taken in his last years, so that's the image we have of him. Anyway, see you soon for episode 2, The Mask of the Red Death.